Imagine pouring your heart and $50 million into a legacy for your only daughter, only to hear her voice, cold as ice, demand you bow to her husband or lose everything. What would you do if the child you raised, the one you gave millions to, turned your love into a weapon, forging your name to steal your empire? Picture the sting of betrayal when your private memories, your life's work, are sold for $30 million by the person you trusted most. My name is Edward Harrington, and this is the story of how my daughter's lies, a con man's venom, and a $50 million conspiracy tore my world apart. Will I fight to reclaim my legacy, or will love blind me to the truth? Welcome to RevengeX, where electrifying stories of betrayal and triumph set your soul ablaze. We're thrilled to have you join our community of viewers who celebrate unyielding resilience and fierce courage. Hit that subscribe button to never miss a heart-pounding tale. And it'd be incredible if you smashed the like button, shared this video, or dropped a comment with the time and city or country you're watching from. Your likes, shares, and heartfelt comments are the greatest spiritual gift, the fuel that keeps this channel burning bright. Now, buckle up for a story that'll hit you right in the feels. Let's dive in. My name is Edward Harrington, a 62-year-old real estate magnate who built a fortune from nothing in the heart of Charlotte, North Carolina. For 30 years, I poured my soul into developing luxury estates, amassing a net worth of over $50 million, every penny earned through sweat, strategy, and sacrifice. My late wife Eleanor was my anchor until breast cancer stole her from me 8 years ago. I thought my daughter, Sophia, and her husband, Derek, were my legacy, my reason to keep going. But on one fateful Saturday afternoon, in the sprawling mansion, I gifted them. My world unraveled in a storm of betrayal, greed, and heartbreak that cut deeper than any loss I'd ever known. The late September sun filtered through the grand bay windows of my Oakwood estate, a $10 million property I'd purchased outright for Sophia and Derek as a wedding gift 5 years ago. I'd just returned from the farmer's market, arms aching under the weight of organic produce and artisanal cheeses, items Derek insisted on, despite never contributing a dime. My hands, marked by years of signing contracts and shaking hands with tycoons, trembled as I set the bags on the marble kitchen island. The air was thick with the scent of my late wife's lavender candles, a cruel reminder of the home I'd built for love, now tainted by ingratitude. Derek lounged in my custom Italian leather armchair, Eleanor's final gift to me before she passed his muddy boots propped on the ottoman, a craft IPA dangling from his hand. At 35, he carried himself like he owned my empire, his smug grin a constant jab at my generosity. The flat screen blared a football game, and without glancing up, he barked, "Ed, grab me another IPA from the fridge, make it quick." His tone wasn't a request. It was a command, laced with the arrogance of a man who'd grown too comfortable living off my millions. I froze, the grocery bags still digging into my palms. "Derek," I said, my voice steady despite the fire igniting in my chest. "I just walked in. I'm putting these away first." He finally looked at me, his eyes narrowing with that familiar condescension, as if I were a servant in my own domain. "Don't make this a thing, old man. You're already up. Just do it." The words landed like a slap, but what stung more was the silence from the kitchen doorway where Sophia stood, her arms crossed, her emerald eyes, Eleanor's eyes, cold and detached. "Dad," she said, her voice sharp, "just get the beer. Why do you always have to make everything so difficult?" My daughter, the girl I'd raised with bedtime stories and private tutors, sided with her husband without hesitation. The betrayal wasn't new, but this moment crystallized it. For years, I'd funded their lavish lifestyle, $2 million for Sophia's Ivy League education at Duke, $300,000 for their extravagant wedding at the Biltmore, and $5 million in monthly allowances for their cars, vacations, and designer wardrobes. I'd convinced myself it was love, a father's duty. But now, standing in the kitchen I'd paid for, I saw the truth. I was their ATM. Nothing more. Derek stood, towering over me, his 6'2" frame a deliberate intimidation tactic. "Here's the deal, Ed," he sneered, stepping so close I could smell the alcohol on his breath. "This is our house now. We call the shots. You want to keep living here, eating our food, enjoying our hospitality? You do what I say. No questions. No attitude." His words were a blade, slicing through decades of devotion. Sophia stepped beside him, her manicured nails gripping a dish towel, her face a mirror of his entitlement. "Dad, you need to decide right now," she said, her voice icy. "Either you serve Derek and contribute, or you pack your bags and get out." The room spun. My heart pounded, a mix of rage and sorrow so intense I could barely breathe. Serve him? In the mansion I'd bought? The house where Eleanor and I had planned our golden years? The betrayal wasn't just their words, it was the years of lies, the whispered promises of gratitude, the facade of family. I thought of my lifelong friend, Margaret Coleman, a retired lawyer who'd warned me about Derek's shady business dealings. "He's using you, Ed," she'd said over coffee at the Drip last month. I saw him schmoozing with loan sharks at the country club. I'd brushed it off, blinded by love for Sophia. Now, her warning echoed in my skull. But there was another voice in the room, one I hadn't expected. Mrs. Jenkins, our loyal housekeeper of 15 years, stood frozen near the pantry, her eyes wide with shock. "Mr. Harrington," she whispered, her voice trembling. "This isn't right. You built this family." Her loyalty, a rare flicker of decency, clashed with the venom of Sophia and Derek's ultimatum. Yet, across town, I knew Derek's sleazy cousin Vince was egging them on. Vince, a small-time con artist, had been whispering in Derek's ear for years, planting ideas about taking what's rightfully theirs. I'd overheard them plotting at a family barbecue, laughing about my endless money. The memory burned, fueling my resolve. My mind churned with conflicting emotions, love for Sophia, rage at Derek, shame for letting it come to this. Should I fight, beg, or walk away from the daughter who'd chosen a parasite over her father? The pain was a living thing, clawing at my chest, but beneath it, a spark of defiance flickered. I'd built an empire from nothing. I wouldn't be broken by their greed. "All right," I said, my voice calm but laced with steel. Derek smirked, thinking he'd won. "Good. Now, about that IPA. I'll pack," I cut him off. The smirk vanished. Sophia's jaw dropped, her eyes flashing with panic. They'd expected me to crumble, to grovel, like I always had. But not today. I turned toward the hallway, my steps deliberate on the oak floors Eleanor and I had chosen together. Behind me, Sophia whispered, "Dad, wait." But Derek's sharp hiss silenced her. I didn't look back. In my study, I pulled my vintage Louis Vuitton suitcase from the closet, a relic from our honeymoon in Napa Valley. Each item I packed felt like a severance. Tailored shirts, my Rolex, Eleanor's photo wrapped in silk. My hands shook, not from fear but from the weight of realization. They'd been bleeding me dry, not just financially but emotionally, for years. Margaret's words rang louder now, joined by a chilling revelation from my accountant Tom Reynolds, who'd called last week. "Ed, someone tried to open a $3 million line of credit in your name. The signature looked like Derek's." I dismissed it as a mistake. Now, it was evidence of a deeper betrayal. As I wheeled the suitcase out, Derek was back in my chair, feigning nonchalance, but his eyes tracked me like a predator. Sophia stood by the kitchen, her face a mask of uncertainty, torn between her husband's control and the father she'd betrayed. Neither spoke as I walked out. My Mercedes purred to life, and I drove away from Oakwood Estate, the mansion I'd given them, without a glance in the rearview mirror. The 30-minute drive to the Serenity Inn gave me time to process the triple blow. Sophia's complicity, Derek's audacity, and Vince's shadowy influence. But another shock awaited, a text from Margaret. "Ed, I just heard Derek's been meeting with real estate sharks, claiming he owns your estate. Be careful." The betrayal wasn't just personal, it was a calculated heist, a multi-million-dollar conspiracy to strip me of everything. My heart screamed for justice, but my mind, sharpened by decades in business, was already planning. They thought they'd broken me. They were wrong. This was no longer about a beer or a house. It was about reclaiming my dignity from the ashes of their greed. The Serenity Inn's neon sign flickered like a dying heartbeat as I pulled into its gravel lot, the weight of my suitcase in the trunk, heavier than the millions I'd poured into Sophia and Derek's lives. The motel, a faded relic on the outskirts of Charlotte, smelled of stale coffee and cheap pine cleaner, a far cry from the polished marble of Oakwood Estate. My room was a claustrophobic box, single bed, chipped formica table, a window overlooking a dumpster. I sank onto the mattress, the springs creaking under me, and let the silence swallow me whole. It wasn't just the loss of my home. It was the gut-wrenching realization that my daughter, my blood, had chosen a leech over me. The betrayal clawed at my soul, each memory of her laughter, now a jagged shard in my chest. I opened my laptop, the glow of the screen casting harsh shadows across the room. My banking app loaded, revealing accounts I'd spent decades building $50 million in assets, from real estate deals to stock portfolios. But other numbers haunted me. $5 million in allowances to Sophia and Derek over 5 years, $2 million for her Duke education, $300,000 for their wedding. And now, Margaret's text about Derek's scheme to claim my estate as his own. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, torn between grief and fury. Should I call Sophia? Beg her to see reason? Or had I already lost her to Derek's poison? The man I'd trusted with my daughter was a snake, and I'd been too blind to see it. A knock at the door jolted me. It was Carla, the Serenity Inn's night clerk, a 60-year-old former schoolteacher with kind eyes and a no-nonsense southern drawl. "Mr. Harrington, you left your car keys in the lobby," she said, holding them out. "You okay? You look like you've seen a ghost." Her concern was a lifeline, a reminder that not everyone saw me as a walking checkbook. I forced a smile. "Just family drama, Carla. Thanks for checking." She lingered, her gaze sharp. "I know Derek from high school. Always was a slick talker, hanging with lowlifes like his cousin Vince. Be careful, sir. Those types don't play fair." Her words hit like a second betrayal. Vince, Derek's sleazy cousin, had always hovered like a vulture, his greasy smirk at family dinners, now a red flag I'd ignored. I thanked Carla and shut the door, my mind racing. Then my phone buzzed a voicemail from an unknown number. It was Vince, his voice dripping with streetwise venom. "Yo, Eddie, you think you're slick, huh? Walking out like some big-shot martyr? You're a washed-up old man, leaving your own kid in the dirt. We're coming for what's ours, you senile bastard." The message ended with a laugh, cold and mocking. My blood boiled, but worse was the text that followed from Sophia. "Dad, how could you abandon us? Derek's right, you've changed." The triple shock, Vince's threat, Sophia's accusation, and Carla's warning ignited a firestorm in my chest. I paced the tiny room, my reflection in the cracked mirror showing a man I barely recognized. I'd given them everything, only to be spat on like a street beggar. But then another bombshell landed. My phone rang, Tom Reynolds, my accountant, his voice urgent. "Ed, I dug deeper into that $3 million credit attempt. It wasn't just Derek. Sophia co-signed the application, and Vince was listed as a guarantor. They forged your signature to secure a $10 million loan against Oakwood Estate. I've got the documents, pure fraud." $10 million. The number was a sledgehammer. My daughter, my own flesh, had conspired to rob me blind. The room spun as I gripped the table, my heart torn between love and betrayal. I saw Sophia's childhood smile, her tiny hand in mine at Eleanor's funeral, now replaced by a stranger who'd sell her father for a payout. But another figure emerged in my mind, Jake Monroe, my old business partner, a Vietnam vet who'd always had my back. Jake had warned me about Derek's gambling at the Carolina Gold Casino, rumors of debts in the 7 figures. I dismissed it. Too trusting. Now, it was another knife in my back. I called Jake, my voice shaking. "Jake, tell me everything you know about Derek." His sigh was heavy. "Ed, he's in deep $2 million to casino sharks. Vince is his bookie, running bets through backroom poker games. They've been milking you to cover his losses, and Sophia's too spineless to stop him." The truth was a noose tightening around my heart. I thanked Jake, hung up, and stared at my laptop. The accounts glowed my empire, my legacy, now a target for their greed. I logged into my bank, my fingers steady despite the chaos in my soul. With a few clicks, I froze the monthly transfers to Sophia's accounts, $500,000 a year. Gone. I canceled their car insurance, their credit cards, their access to my wealth. Each action was a reclaiming of my dignity, but it couldn't mend the fracture in my heart. Another knock. I opened the door to find Sophia standing there, her designer coat wrinkled, her eyes red but defiant. Derek loomed behind her, his face twisted in a sneer. "You think you can cut us off, you greedy old prick?" He spat, his voice pure street venom. "We made you look good, living large in your fancy house. Now you're pulling this crap? You're dead to us." Sophia's silence was louder than his words, her refusal to defend me a fresh wound. I fought the urge to scream, to beg her to see me as her father, not a mark. Instead I said, "You wanted me out. I'm out. Handle your own mess." As they stormed off, Carla appeared, her face etched with worry. "I heard it all, Mr. Harrington. That boy's trouble, and your daughter's lost her way. You don't deserve this." Her loyalty was a balm, but it couldn't erase the pain. Back in my room, I sat at the table, my evidence file open, Tom's fraud documents, Jake's casino intel, Vince's threatening voicemail. My mind battled itself, the father who wanted to save Sophia versus the man who refused to be a victim. Then my phone buzzed again, a text from an unknown number, likely Vince's burner. "You'll regret this, Eddie. We've got plans for your millions." The threat was the final straw. They weren't just betraying me, they were plotting to destroy me. I thought of Eleanor, her gentle voice urging me to stand tall. I wouldn't let their greed win. Tomorrow, I'd call my lawyer, Margaret, and start the legal fight to protect my legacy. The Serenity Inn's walls closed in, but my resolve hardened. Derek, Sophia, and Vince thought they'd broken me. They were about to learn how wrong they were. The Serenity Inn's fluorescent lights buzzed like a swarm of angry wasps, mirroring the chaos in my mind as I sat at the chipped table, my laptop screen glowing with the wreckage of my financial empire. The weight of Sophia and Derek's betrayal, compounded by Vince's venomous threats and their audacious $10 million fraud attempt, pressed against my chest like a physical force. I'd built a $50 million legacy through decades of grit, only to watch my daughter and her husband try to tear it down. My heart ached with the ghost of Eleanor's voice, urging me to fight, but the father in me still clung to a fading hope that Sophia could be saved. The war inside me, love versus justice, raged as fiercely as the storm brewing outside. A sharp rap at the door snapped me out of my spiral. It was Margaret Coleman, my old friend and lawyer, her silver hair pulled back, her eyes blazing with righteous fury. "Ed, I came as soon as I heard," she said, tossing a thick manila folder onto the table. "I pulled some strings at the courthouse. You're not going to believe this." Her words were a lifeline, but they carried a warning. She opened the folder, revealing documents that made my blood run cold. A second forged loan application, this one for $15 million, listing my entire real estate portfolio as collateral. Sophia's signature was scrawled next to Derek's, and Vince's name appeared as a consultant. The betrayal wasn't just a stab, it was a massacre, a calculated plan to gut my legacy. "They thought they could bleed you dry and walk away clean," Margaret said, her voice tight with disgust. "But here's the kicker. I found a paper trail. Derek's been funneling your allowance money, $500,000 a year, into offshore accounts tied to Vince's shell companies. They've been laundering your generosity to pay off his $2 million casino debts." My stomach churned. The numbers were staggering, but the emotional blow was worse. Sophia, my little girl who once danced with me at charity galas, had signed her name to this treachery. I wanted to scream, to collapse, but Margaret's steady gaze anchored me. "You're not alone, Ed," she said softly. "We'll fight this." Before I could respond, my phone lit up with a call from an unknown number. I answered, and Derek's voice slithered through, thick with streetwise scorn. "Yo, Eddie, you pathetic old fool. Think you can freeze us out? You're a dead man walking, cutting off my cash like some wannabe tough guy. We're gonna bury you. You dried up has been." His words were a Molotov cocktail, igniting my rage, but I held my tongue, letting him spew. "Sophia's crying her eyes out. 'Cause of you, you heartless bastard. Fix this, or I'll make sure everyone in Charlotte knows you're a senile old prick who abandoned his pregnant daughter." The call ended with a laugh, echoed by Vince's hyena-like cackle in the background. Pregnant. The word hit like a freight train. Was it true, or another lie to manipulate me? My mind flashed to Sophia's childhood, her tiny hand clutching mine as we walked through Myers Park, her dreams of becoming a doctor. Had she traded all that for Derek's schemes? The possibility of a grandchild twisted the knife deeper, but doubt gnawed at me. Their lies were a house of cards, and I wasn't falling for it again. I turned to Margaret. "Can we verify if Sophia's pregnant?" She nodded, already dialing her contact at Charlotte Women's Clinic. "I'll find out, Ed, but don't let their games get to you." As Margaret stepped outside to make the call, another shock landed. My phone buzzed with an email from Tom Reynolds, my accountant. "Ed, urgent. Derek tried to access your brokerage account, $20 million worth, using a forged power of attorney. I blocked it, but he's got someone on the inside at the bank. Be careful." The audacity was breathtaking. Derek wasn't just stealing. He was waging war on my entire existence. My hands shook as I forwarded the email to Margaret, my mind a battlefield of grief and resolve. I'd given them everything, love, money, trust, and they'd turned it into a weapon. My phone rang again, this time from Lila Brooks, a former employee who'd worked as my assistant for a decade before retiring. Her voice was warm, but urgent. "Mr. Harrington, I saw Derek and Vince at the Carolina Gold Casino last night, bragging about taking you down. They were with a guy named Tony Russo, a loan shark known for breaking kneecaps. They're planning something big, something about your lakefront properties." Leela's loyalty, like Margaret's, was a beacon in the darkness, but her news was another bombshell. Tony Russo, a name whispered in Charlotte's underbelly, was the kind of predator who didn't negotiate. Derek's desperation had pulled him into a dangerous orbit, and I was the target. I paced the motel room, my mind splintering under the triple assault. Sophia's forged signatures, Derek's bank heist attempt, and now a loan shark in the mix. The father in me wanted to drive to Oakwood Estate, confront Sophia, and beg her to break free from Derek's grip. But the man who'd built an empire knew better. Emotion had blinded me for years. Now, cold strategy would save me. I sat down, opened my evidence file, and added today's revelations. The $15 million loan fraud, the offshore accounts, the casino connections. Each entry was a brick in the wall I was building to protect myself. Then came another knock, softer this time. It was Sophia, alone, her face pale, her eyes swollen with tears. "Dad," she whispered. "I didn't know it would go this far." Her voice trembled, but I saw the flicker of calculation in her eyes, the same look she'd given me when she sided with Derek. "Derek's out of control, but I'm scared. Tony Russo's been calling, saying we owe him $3 million. He's coming for the house." Her words were a plea, but they reeked of manipulation. I wanted to pull her into my arms, to save her like I always had, but the sting of her betrayal held me back. "You signed those loan papers, Sophia," I said, my voice low but sharp. "You helped Derek steal from me." Her face crumpled, but she didn't deny it. "I thought it was the only way to keep him," she sobbed. "I didn't know about the casino, the debts, any of it until it was too late." Her tears were real, but so was her complicity. The conflict tore at me. Love for my daughter clashed with the reality of her choices. I wanted to believe her, but trust was a luxury I could no longer afford. As Sophia left, Margaret returned, her face grim. "The clinic has no record of Sophia being pregnant." "It's a lie, Ed." The confirmation was a final gut punch. My daughter had sunk so low as to fake a pregnancy to manipulate me. I sank into the chair, the weight of her betrayal crushing me. But Margaret's hand on my shoulder was steady. "We're filing an injunction tomorrow to freeze their access to your assets," she said. "And I'm calling the DA about the fraud. They're not getting away with this." Outside, thunder rumbled, matching the storm in my soul. Derek, Sophia, Vince, and now Tony Russo, they thought they could break me. But I'd survived worse than their greed. Tomorrow, I'd meet Margaret at the courthouse, armed with evidence and resolve. The Serenity Inn's walls felt like a cage, but I was no prisoner. I was Edward Harrington, and I'd fight to reclaim my life, no matter the cost. The Serenity Inn's air conditioner rattled like a death knell, a fitting soundtrack to the hollow ache in my chest as I sat in the dim glow of my laptop, surrounded by the evidence of Sophia and Derek's betrayal. The forged $15 million loan, the laundered $500,000 allowances, the fake pregnancy, they were daggers, each one sharper than the last, carving away at the love I'd held for my daughter. The storm outside had passed, leaving a suffocating stillness, but inside me, a hurricane of grief and resolve churned. I wanted to believe Sophia's tears were real, that she was a victim of Derek's schemes. But the forged signatures and lies screamed otherwise. My empire, built over decades, was under siege, and the war was only beginning. Morning broke gray and heavy, mirroring my mood as I spread my evidence across the motel table like a general plotting a counterstrike. Margaret's injunction was in motion, but I needed more than legal maneuvers to reclaim my life. My phone, silent for hours, suddenly erupted with notifications, 20 missed calls, a dozen voicemails, and a barrage of texts. Most were from Sophia, her tone shifting from confusion to desperation. "Dad, the bank's calling about the mortgage. What's happening? Please, call me back. We're drowning." But one voicemail stopped me cold. It was Vince, his voice a guttural snarl, pure Charlotte Street trash. "Yo, Eddie, you think you're some kind of king, huh? Freezing our cash, playing hardball? You're a deadbeat fossil, man. We're gonna torch your whole damn world, you washed-up piece of shit." His laugh was a blade, but the real shock came next. "Oh, and Sophia? She's in on it, old man." Signed every paper with a smile. The words were a gut punch, amplifying the betrayal tenfold. Sophia, my daughter, wasn't just complicit, she was an architect of this fraud. My hands trembled as I replayed the message, each word a fresh wound. I saw her at 6, braiding her hair for school. At 16, beaming at her debutante ball. At 28, signing away my legacy. The father in me wanted to rush to her, to save her from herself. But the man who'd built a $50 million empire knew better. Trust was a casualty of their war, and I couldn't afford to be sentimental. My phone buzzed with a call from Lila Brooks, my loyal former assistant, her voice shaking with urgency. "Mr. Harrington, I just got a tip from a friend at the county recorder's office. Derek filed a fraudulent deed transfer last week, trying to put Oakwood Estate in his name. They caught it because the notary stamp was fake, but he's got a lawyer, some sleaze named Victor Crane, pushing to backdate it. The audacity was staggering. A fake deed? My home, the sanctuary where Eleanor and I had dreamed of grandchildren, was being stolen out from under me. Lila's loyalty was a flicker of light, but it couldn't dull the pain of this new betrayal. I paced the room, my mind a battlefield. Should I confront Sophia, demand the truth? Or was she too far gone, entangled in Derek's web of lies? Before I could decide, another shock hit. A text from Jake Monroe, my old business partner. Ed, check your email. I hacked into Derek's cloud account, don't ask how. He's got contracts to sell your lakefront properties to a shell company tied to Tony Russo. $25 million, Ed. They're planning to disappear with it. My heart stopped. $25 million. My properties, my life's work, were being auctioned off by my own family. The betrayal wasn't just personal, it was a heist of biblical proportions. I opened Jake's email, my pulse racing as I scanned the documents. Contracts, emails, even a draft letter from Sophia to a real estate broker, promising full cooperation for a quick sale. Her words, polished and professional, cut deeper than Derek's street venom. She wasn't a pawn, she was a player. The realization was a sledgehammer, shattering the last vestiges of hope. I wanted to scream, to drive to Oakwood Estate and shake her until she saw sense, but my phone buzzed again. This time, it was Carla, the motel clerk, her voice low and urgent. Mr. Harrington, Derek, and Vince were here an hour ago, sniffing around your car. I told them to leave, but they were talking about teaching you a lesson. I've got it on the security cam. The triple assault, Vince's threats, the fake deed, the lakefront heist pushed me to the edge. My mind churned with images of Eleanor's smile, now replaced by Sophia's cold ambition. I called Margaret, my voice steady despite the chaos. We need to escalate, file for a restraining order against Derek and Vince, and get the DA on the deed fraud. She didn't hesitate. I'm on it, Ed, but there's more. Victor Crane, their lawyer, is under investigation for money laundering. He's tied to Russo. This is bigger than we thought. As Margaret hung up, another conflict erupted, a knock at the door, loud and aggressive. I opened it to find Derek, his face flushed with rage, Vince smirking behind him like a hyena. You think you can screw us over, you greedy old bastard? Derek spat, his voice pure street venom. Cutting off the money, playing the victim? We're gonna take everything, Eddie, your house, your properties, your whole damn legacy. You're nothing but a washed-up fool who can't let go. Vince stepped forward, his eyes glinting with malice. Yeah, and Sophia's laughing at you, man. She's been planning this for years, you dumb old prick. And their words were a flamethrower, scorching what little faith I had left. But the real blow came when Derek pulled out a crumpled photo of me and Sophia at her graduation, smiling under a Carolina sky. He tore it in half, tossing it at my feet. That's what she thinks of you now, he sneered. The act was a violation, a desecration of my memories. My heart screamed to fight back, to reclaim my daughter, but my mind saw the truth. They were predators, and I was prey no longer. I shut the door, my hands shaking as I dialed the police, reporting the threat and the security footage. Carla's voice came through the wall, calling out to another guest. Her loyalty, a quiet anchor in the storm. But my phone buzzed again, a text from Sophia. Dad, I'm sorry. I didn't mean for this to happen. Please help us. Her words were a siren's song, pulling at the father who'd die for her. But the forged deed, the lakefront contracts, her signatures, they told a different story. Was she a victim or a mastermind? The question tore at me, each possibility a fresh betrayal. I sat back at the table, my evidence file now a fortress of truth. Margaret's restraining order, Lila's deed tip, Jake's hacked contracts, they were weapons in a war I hadn't chosen. The Serenity Inn's walls seemed to close in, but I felt a spark of defiance. Derek, Vince, and Sophia thought they could bury me. They didn't know the man they'd crossed. Tomorrow, I'd walk into the courthouse with Margaret, armed with evidence, to dismantle their lies. The pain of Sophia's betrayal was a wound that might never heal, but I'd fight for my dignity, my legacy, and the truth Eleanor would have demanded. The storm was here, and I was ready. The Serenity Inn's dim light flickered as I sat at the table, my evidence file now a towering monument to Sophia, Derek, and Vince's treachery. The forged $15 million loan, the fake deed transfer, the $25 million lakefront property scheme, each revelation was a fresh scar, etched deeper by Sophia's crocodile tears and Derek's vicious taunts. My heart was a war zone, torn between the father who wanted to save his daughter and the man who refused to be a victim of her betrayal. The torn photo of Sophia's graduation lay on the floor, a brutal reminder of the family I thought I had. Outside, Charlotte's skyline loomed, a city I'd shaped with my empire, now a battleground for my survival. A sharp buzz from my phone shattered the silence. It was a voicemail, Zingli Chompate voicemail from an unknown number, but I knew it was Vince before his voice even hissed through. "Hey Eddie, you dumb old bastard," he sneered, his streetwise drawl dripping with venom. "Think you can hide behind your lawyer, bitch? We're gonna burn your whole damn life down, you rich-ass clown. Sophia's done with you. Man, she's laughing at your sorry ass while we plan our next move." The call ended with a cackle, but the real blow came in a text from Derek. "You're finished, old man. We got people watching you. Sleep tight, you pathetic loser." The words were a flamethrower, igniting my rage, but also my fear. They were escalating, and I was running out of time. Before I could process the threat, another bombshell landed. Margaret burst through the door, her face pale, clutching a USB drive. "Ed, you need to see this," she said, plugging it into my laptop. A grainy video loaded security footage from my downtown office, showing Derek and a man I didn't recognize breaking into my private safe. "That's Victor Crane," Margaret said, her voice tight. "He's working with Derek to steal your corporate contracts, $30 million in pending deals. They're planning to sell them to a competitor." My stomach dropped. $30 million. My life's work, my legacy, was being dismantled piece by piece. The betrayal wasn't just personal, it was a corporate coup, with Sophia's silent approval. My mind reeled, torn between fury and despair. Sophia, the girl I'd raised to conquer the world, was complicit in this heist. I saw her at 10, giggling as we built sandcastles on Myrtle Beach. Now, she was a stranger, plotting to destroy me. The father in me wanted to drive to Oakwood Estate, to shake her awake, but the businessman in me knew she'd chosen her path. Margaret's hand on my arm brought me back. "We're filing charges today," she said, her eyes fierce. "Fraud, theft, conspiracy. But there's more. My contact at the DA's office says Tony Russo's crew is circling your properties. They're planning a break-in tonight." The triple shock Vince's threats, the corporate theft, and an impending break-in hit like a tidal wave. My empire, my daughter, my safety all under attack. But then, a knock at the door. It was Lila Brooks, her face etched with worry, holding a stack of papers. "Mr. Harrington, I found these in my old files," she said, her voice trembling. "Emails between Sophia and Victor Crane, planning to frame you for tax evasion. They wanted to trigger an IRS audit to seize your assets $40 million worth." The paper slipped from my hands. Tax evasion? My own daughter? Conspiring to send me to prison? The betrayal was a living thing, clawing at my soul, leaving me gasping for air. I stumbled to the window, staring at the neon-lit parking lot. The memory of Sophia's childhood laughter clashed with the image of her signing those emails. Should I call her, give her one last chance? Or was she too far gone, seduced by Derek's greed and Vince's poison? Lila's voice broke through. "I believe in you, Mr. Harrington. You're stronger than they think." Her loyalty, like Margaret's, was a lifeline, but it couldn't erase the pain. I turned to her, my voice raw. "How do I fight my own daughter, Lila?" She shook her head, tears in her eyes. "You fight for the truth." As Lila left, my phone buzzed again, a call from Jake Monroe. "Ed, I've got eyes on Derek," he said, his voice low. "He's at the casino with Tony Russo, negotiating a deal to hand over your commercial properties for a $10 million payout. Sophia was there, Ed. She didn't say a word, just stood there nodding." My heart shattered. Sophia, my flesh and blood, was a willing participant in this betrayal. The image of her nodding, complicit, was worse than any threat from Derek or Vince. I thanked Jake, my mind racing. The corporate theft, the tax evasion plot, the casino deal, 3 simultaneous assaults, each more devastating than the last. Are you enjoying the story so far? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Just drop a quick comment below to share how you feel. It only takes a few seconds. But your words give me the motivation and inspiration to make every chapter more thrilling and engaging. Go ahead, let me know what's on your mind. And now, let's dive back into the story. I called the police, my voice steady despite the chaos. I need protection at my downtown properties. There's a planned break-in tonight. The dispatcher promised a patrol, but I knew Tony Russo's crew didn't play by rules. As I hung up, another knock. Carla, her face grim. "Mr. Harrington, I overheard Vince on the phone outside. He's got someone tailing you, says they're going to make you disappear if you don't back off." Her words were a knife, twisting the fear and rage inside me. Vince's street thug bravado wasn't just talk, he was a predator, and I was in his crosshairs. My mind fractured under the weight of it all. I saw Eleanor's face, urging me to stand tall, but Sophia's betrayal was a wound that wouldn't close. I wanted to save her, to pull her from this abyss, but her actions, signatures, emails, silence screamed complicity. I sat down, my evidence file now a war chest. Margaret's USB drive, Lila's emails, Jake's intel. Each piece was a weapon, but using them meant destroying my daughter. The conflict tore at me. Love and justice locked in a death grip. Another buzz, a text from Sophia. Dad, I'm scared. Derek's out of control. Please help me. Her words were a siren's call, tugging at the father who'd die for her. But the emails, the contracts, the forged deeds, they told a different story. Was she a victim or a mastermind? The question was a torment, each possibility a fresh betrayal. I forwarded the text to Margaret, my resolve hardening. Add it to the file, I said. We're going to court tomorrow. The Serenity Inn's walls seemed to pulse with danger, but I was no longer a victim. Derek, Vince, Sophia, and their loan shark allies thought they could break me. They were wrong. I'd built an empire from nothing, and I'd fight to protect it. The courthouse awaited, and with Margaret, Lila, Jake, and Carla by my side, I'd face the storm head-on. The pain of Sophia's betrayal was a fire in my chest, but it fueled my determination. This wasn't just about money, it was about reclaiming my soul. The Serenity Inn's stale air clung to my skin as I sat hunched over my evidence file, the weight of Sophia's betrayal heavier than the $50 million empire I'd built. The forged deeds, the $30 million corporate theft, the tax evasion plot, each was a fresh wound. But the image of Sophia nodding at Derek's casino deal with Tony Russo haunted me most. My heart was a battlefield, torn between the father who still saw her as the girl who'd clung to me during thunderstorms and the man who faced her cold complicity. The torn graduation photo, its pieces scattered on the motel floor, mocked my shattered dreams. Charlotte's skyline blinked through the window, a reminder of the legacy I was fighting to save. A sharp ping from my laptop jolted me. An email from Jake Monroe, marked urgent. Ed, found a hidden server in Derek's cloud. He's got recordings, private calls between you and Eleanor, stolen from your office. They're planning to leak them to smear you as unstable, worth millions in blackmail. My breath caught. Those calls, sacred moments where Eleanor and I planned our future, were now weapons in Derek's hands. The violation was visceral, a desecration of her memory. My hands shook as I imagined Sophia, my own blood approving this. The father in me wanted to call her, to plead for any shred of remorse, but the businessman saw the truth. She was a conspirator, not a victim. Before I could process the violation, a pounding at the door made my heart race. It was Carla, her face ashen, clutching her phone. Mr. Harrington, you need to hear this, she said, playing a voicemail left on the motel's line. Vince's voice slithered through, raw and vicious. Listen up, you ancient piece of trash. You think you're smart, huh? Hiding in this dump, playing victim? We got your private calls, Eddie, and we're gonna blast them all over Charlotte. You'll be a laughingstock, you broke-ass wannabe tycoon. His laugh was a gut punch, but the real shock came next. Sophia's the one who gave us the access codes to your office. You clueless old bastard. Sophia, my daughter, the architect of this new betrayal. The revelation was a sledgehammer, splintering what little hope I had left. I stumbled to the chair, my mind flashing to Sophia at 16, helping me organize my office files, her smile bright with pride. Now, she'd weaponized that trust to destroy me. Carla's eyes filled with tears. I'm so sorry, Mr. Harrington. You don't deserve this. Her loyalty was a flicker of warmth, but it couldn't thaw the ice in my chest. Thank you, Carla, I whispered, my voice raw. But I need to end this. As Carla left, another bombshell hit. My phone buzzed with a call from Margaret, her voice tight with urgency. Ed, I just got a tip from a contact at the Charlotte Observer. Derek and Victor Crane are pitching a story, claiming you've been funneling money to offshore accounts to dodge taxes, $50 million worth. They've got fake bank records, and Sophia's name is on the press release. $50 million, the audacity was breathtaking, but the pain of Sophia's involvement was crippling. My own daughter, framing me as a criminal to save her husband's skin. I wanted to scream, to drive to her and demand answers, but Margaret's voice cut through. We're countersuing for defamation, Ed. But there's more. Tony Russo's crew hit one of your properties last night, vandalized it, caused $500,000 in damage. Oh, the triple assault stolen recordings, Fake tax evasion claims, property vandalism pushed me to the brink. My empire was crumbling, and my daughter was holding the wrecking ball. But then, a new voice broke through. Lila Brooks called, her tone frantic. "Mr. Harrington, I just saw Sophia at the bank with Victor Crane. They're trying to liquidate your trust fund $10 million for emergency expenses." The teller stalled them, but they're coming back with a forged court order. $10 million. My trust fund, meant for charity in Eleanor's name, was now their latest target. The betrayal was a living thing, wrapping around my throat, choking me with grief. I paced the room, my mind a storm of conflicting emotions. Sophia's childhood laughter echoed, clashing with her calculated betrayal. Should I confront her, beg her to stop, or was she too far gone, lost to Derek's greed and Vince's poison? The father in me clung to her memory, but the man who'd survived cutthroat deals knew she'd made her choice. I called Margaret, my voice steady despite the chaos. File an emergency injunction to freeze the trust fund and get the police on the vandalism. She didn't hesitate. Done. But Ed, Russo's crew is escalating. I'm sending a private security team to the Serenity Inn tonight. And as I hung up, another knock, soft, hesitant. It was Sophia, her face gaunt, her eyes red-rimmed but guarded. "Dad," she whispered. "I didn't want this. Derek forced me to give him the codes, the signatures. I'm trapped." Her voice trembled, but her hands fidgeted, betraying her. I wanted to believe her, to pull her into my arms and save her. But the evidence recordings, press releases, trust fund attempts screamed lies. "You gave them my private calls, Sophia," I said, my voice low, cutting. "You signed the tax evasion story. You're not trapped, you're complicit." Her face crumpled, tears spilling, but I saw the flicker of calculation in her eyes. "I had no choice, Dad. Tony Russo's threatening us. He wants $5 million or he'll hurt us." The plea was desperate, but it reeked of manipulation, a recycled script to exploit my love. My heart broke anew, but I held firm. "You made your choice when you betrayed me," I said, stepping back. "Get out, Em." As she fled, sobbing, my phone buzzed again, a text from Vince. "Nice try, you senile old fuck. We're selling your calls to the highest bidder. Say goodbye to your reputation." The threat was a match to gasoline, but I was done being their victim. I forwarded the text to Margaret, adding it to the evidence file now bursting with their crimes. Jake's recordings, Lila's bank tip, Margaret's defamation suit. They were my arsenal, but each weapon came at a cost. The death of my daughter's love. The Serenity Inn's walls seemed to pulse with danger, but Carla's quiet knock brought a moment of solace. "I told the security team to watch your room, Mr. Harrington," she said, her eyes fierce with loyalty. "You're not alone." Her words were a lifeline, but they couldn't heal the wound of Sophia's betrayal. I sat back, my resolve hardening. Tomorrow I'd face the courthouse with Margaret, armed with evidence to bury Derek, Vince, and their loan shark allies. The pain of losing Sophia was a fire in my soul, but it fueled my fight. They thought they'd broken Edward Harrington. They were about to learn the cost of crossing me. The Serenity Inn's peeling wallpaper seemed to mock my unraveling world as I stood at the motel window, staring into Charlotte's pre-dawn haze. Sophia's betrayal, her role in leaking my private calls with Eleanor, signing off on a $50 million tax evasion smear, and attempting to liquidate my $10 million trust fund had carved a chasm in my soul. The pain was a living thing, pulsing with every memory of her childhood laughter, now drowned out by Derek's venom and Vince's threats. My evidence file, now a fortress of their crimes, sat on the table, but each document was a reminder of the daughter I'd lost. The father in me yearned to save her, to believe her tearful pleas. But the man who'd built a $50 million empire knew she'd chosen greed over family. Today, I'd wield the law like a blade to reclaim my life. A soft knock broke my reverie. It was Margaret, her eyes sharp despite the early hour, carrying a briefcase stuffed with legal filings. "Ed, we're ready," she said, her voice steady but laced with urgency. The injunctions filed, the defamation suits drafted, and the DA's reviewing the fraud charges. But I've got something new. She handed me a folder labeled Confidential. Inside were bank records showing Derek had diverted $3 million of my real estate profits into a shell company owned by Tony Russo. The kicker? Sophia had authorized the transfers, her signature bold and unapologetic. My heart sank, the betrayal a fresh wound. $3 million stolen not just from me, but from the legacy I'd built for Eleanor's memory. "She's not just complicit," I whispered, my voice cracking. "She's leading this." Margaret's gaze softened, but her words were firm. "Ed," she made her choice. We're going to the courthouse now to file for eviction. Oakwood Estate is yours, and they're out. The word eviction hit like a thunderclap. Kicking my own daughter out of the home I'd given her felt like severing a limb, but her actions left me no choice. I nodded, my resolve hardening, but inside, grief and rage battled for dominance. How had it come to this? As we prepared to leave, my phone erupted with a voicemail from Vince, his voice, a street-honed snarl. Yo, Eddie, you think your fancy lawyer's gonna save you, you decrepit old fuck? We're selling your dirty secrets to every tabloid in town, making bank while you cry in this shithole motel. Sophia's done with your sorry ass, she's calling you a lunatic to anyone who'll listen. The message ended with a laugh, but a text from Derek followed, dripping with malice. You're a dead man, old prick. We got Russo's boys ready to trash your lake house, $5 million in damages coming your way. The threats were a Molotov cocktail, but the real blow was Sophia's role in the smear campaign. My own daughter, painting me as unhinged to save her husband's skin. Before I could respond, another shock hit. Lila Brooks called, her voice trembling with panic. Mr. Harrington, I just got word from a friend at the city planning office. Derek and Victor Crane filed a fake zoning change to turn your commercial properties into a casino front for Russo worth $20 million. Sophia signed the paperwork, claiming she had your power of attorney. $20 million. My properties, the backbone of my empire, were being repurposed into a criminal enterprise. The betrayal was a guillotine, severing the last threads of my trust in Sophia. I wanted to collapse, to scream at the injustice, but Lila's loyalty steadied me. I'm with you, Mr. Harrington, she said. We'll stop them. The triple assault, stolen profits, tabloid smears, and the casino scheme pushed me to the edge. My mind churned with memories of Sophia's childhood, her hand in mine at charity auctions, now replaced by her cold ambition. Should I give her one last chance, or was she a lost cause? The conflict was torture, love clashing with the reality of her crimes. I turned to Margaret. Let's file the eviction today, and add the zoning fraud to the charges. She nodded, her eyes fierce. We're also requesting a restraining order against Russo's crew. The police are on high alert. As we drove to the Mecklenburg County Courthouse, another bombshell landed. Jake Monroe texted, Ed, I intercepted a call between Derek and a hacker. They're trying to wipe your financial records, $40 million in assets, to make it look like you're bankrupt. Sophia gave them your account passwords. $40 million? My entire financial history, erased to fuel their lies. The betrayal was a wildfire, consuming every memory of Sophia's love. I forwarded the text to Margaret, my hands shaking with rage. Add cybercrime to the list, I said, my voice cold. At the courthouse, the clerk processed the eviction notice with crisp efficiency. Mr. Harrington, this gives them 30 days to vacate Oakwood Estate, she said, stamping the papers. The sheriff will serve them tomorrow. The weight of the moment was crushing my daughter, homeless by my hand, but her signatures, her lies, her complicity left me no choice. As we left, my phone buzzed again, a call from Carla, her voice low with fear. Mr. Harrington, Russo's guys were here, asking for you. They trashed your car, smashed windows, slashed tires. I've got the security footage. The vandalism was another escalation, a message from Tony Russo that I wasn't safe. I stood outside the courthouse, Charlotte's skyline looming like a jury. The father in me mourned Sophia, the girl who'd once called me her hero. But the man who'd faced down corporate sharks saw her for what she'd become, a traitor, hand in hand with Derek and Vince. The pain was a physical ache, but it fueled my resolve. I turned to Margaret. Get the footage to the DA, and call Jake, tell him to secure my servers. She nodded, already dialing. As we drove back, my phone lit up with a text from Sophia. Dad, I'm begging you, stop this. Russo's threatening to hurt me. Her words were a dagger, twisting in my chest. Was she a victim, trapped by fear, or a manipulator playing her final card? The question was a torment, each possibility a fresh betrayal. I forwarded the text to Margaret, my heart heavy but my mind clear. File it as evidence, I said. She's made her bed. The Serenity Inn's neon sign flickered as we pulled in, a beacon in my darkening world. Carla met us at the door, her eyes fierce with loyalty. I called the cops, Mr. Harrington. They're patrolling tonight. Her support was a lifeline, but it couldn't heal the wound of Sophia's betrayal. I sat at the table, my evidence file now a war machine. Stolen profits, fake zoning, cybercrime attempts. Derek, Vince, Sophia, and Russo thought they could bury me. They were wrong. Tomorrow, the sheriff would serve the eviction, and I'd face the courtroom with Margaret, Lila, and Jake by my side. The pain of losing my daughter was a fire, but it forged my resolve. I was Edward Harrington, and I'd fight until my legacy was mine again. The Serenity Inn's flickering light cast jagged shadows across my room, mirroring the chaos in my heart as I gripped the eviction papers, their ink still fresh from the courthouse. Sophia's betrayal, her signatures on a $3 million theft, a $20 million casino scheme, and a $50 million tax evasion plot had gutted me, each act a deeper cut than the last. The memory of her tearful plea, "Dad, I'm begging you," clashed with the cold reality of her complicity, leaving me torn between love and justice. My $50 million empire, built brick by brick with Eleanor, was under siege, and the battle was spilling into Charlotte's streets. Today, the sheriff would serve the eviction notice, but the war was far from over. A sharp buzz from my phone shattered the morning stillness. It was a voicemail from Vince, his voice a venomous snarl, pure street filth. "Yo, Eddie, you think you're hot shit with your court papers, you senile old fuck? We're gonna paint this town with your dirty laundry, make you a laughingstock. Sophia's spilling all your secrets. You washed up prick, she says you're a paranoid nutcase who lost his mind." His laugh was a knife, but the real blow came in a follow-up text from Derek. "Eviction? Cute, old man. We're torching your lake house tonight, 10 million in ashes, you broke-ass loser." The threat was a Molotov cocktail, amplifying my fear that Tony Russo's crew was closing in. Before I could catch my breath, another bombshell hit. Margaret called, her voice taut with urgency. "Ed, I just got a report from the sheriff's office. Sophia filed a counterclaim, alleging you're mentally unfit and trying to steal Oakwood Estate out of spite. She's got a forged medical report from a shady doctor claims you're senile, worth a $30 million lawsuit." My heart stopped. Mentally unfit? My own daughter, weaponizing lies to strip me of my home and reputation. The betrayal was a sledgehammer, crushing the last flickers of hope. I saw her at 8, giggling as we planted tulips in the backyard. Now, she was branding me a lunatic to save her skin. "File a motion to dismiss," I told Margaret, my voice hollow, "and get that doctor's license checked." The triple shock Vince's threats, Derek's arson plan, and Sophia's lawsuit pushed me to the edge. My mind churned, torn between the father who wanted to save her and the man who saw her as a traitor. But then, a new voice broke through. Lila Brooks burst into the room, her eyes wide with panic. "Mr. Harrington, I just found out from a contact at the bank. Derek and Victor Crane are trying to drain your investment accounts $15 million using a fake power of attorney signed by Sophia. The bank froze it, but they're threatening legal action. $15 million. My investments, meant for veterans' charities in Eleanor's name, were now their latest heist. The betrayal was a wildfire, consuming every memory of Sophia's love. I stumbled to the window, Charlotte's skyline blurring through tears. I refused to shed. Should I confront Sophia, demand the truth? Or was she too far gone, lost to Derek's greed and Vince's poison? Lila's hand on my shoulder was a lifeline. "You're stronger than this, Mr. Harrington," she said, her voice fierce with loyalty. "They're scared, that's why they're hitting so hard." Her words were a spark, but the pain of Sophia's lies was a crushing weight. I wanted to believe she was trapped, but her signatures, her lawsuits, her silence, they screamed complicity. As Lila left, another blow landed. Jake Monroe called, his tone grim. "Ed, I got a tip from a buddy at the Carolina Gold Casino. Sophia's been meeting with Tony Russo, negotiating a deal to hand over your downtown office building $25 million for a cut of his profits. She was bragging about taking you down to his crew." My heart shattered. Sophia, my daughter, was not just complicit, she was reveling in my destruction. The image of her laughing with Russo's thugs was worse than any threat from Derek or Vince. I thanked Jake, my voice barely a whisper, and added the intel to my evidence file, now a towering monument to their crimes. The town was starting to talk. As I walked to the Main Street diner for coffee, the air was thick with whispers. Mrs. Carter, a church friend who'd known Eleanor, pulled me aside. "Ed, I heard Sophia's telling everyone you're losing your mind, throwing her out for no reason. She's saying you owe her $30 million for emotional distress. Is it true?" Her concern was genuine, but the question stung. Sophia's lies were spreading like wildfire, turning neighbors against me. I forced a smile. "She asked me to leave my own home, Mrs. Carter. I'm just taking it back." Her eyes widened, the truth sinking in. "Lord Ed, we all thought you were helping them live that fancy life." At the diner, another shock awaited. Carla, who'd followed me to check in, overheard a conversation at the counter. Two locals were gossiping about Derek's latest stunt. He'd crashed a charity gala last night, claiming I'd cut him off out of jealousy. That old bastard's hoarding his millions while his daughter starves. He'd slurred, loud enough for the whole room to hear. The lie was a public execution, painting me as a villain in the city I'd helped build. Carla's face flushed with anger. He's lying through his teeth, Mr. Harrington. I told the manager what really happened, how you paid for everything. Her loyalty was a bomb, but it couldn't erase the sting of Derek's slander. As I sipped my coffee, my phone buzzed again, a text from Sophia. Dad, I'm sorry. Russo's forcing me to do this. Please, let's talk. Her words were a siren's call, tugging at the father who'd die for her. But the forged medical report, the casino deal, the investment theft, they told a different story. Was she a victim or a mastermind? The question was a torment, each possibility a fresh betrayal. I forwarded the text to Margaret, my resolve hardening. Add it to the evidence, I said. She's playing both sides. Back at the Serenity Inn, I sat with my evidence file. Stolen profits, fake lawsuits, public smears. The town's whispers were turning in my favor, thanks to Carla's and Mrs. Carter's honesty, but the pain of Sophia's betrayal was a fire in my chest. I saw Eleanor's face, urging me to stand tall, but Sophia's lies were a noose, tightening with every move. Margaret called as I organized my files. Ed, the sheriff, served the eviction notice. Derek trashed the papers in front of them, screaming about suing your crazy ass. We're ready for court tomorrow, and the 4. The Serenity Inn's walls pulsed with danger, but I was no longer prey. Derek, Vince, Sophia, and Russo thought they could break me with lies and threats. They were wrong. Tomorrow, I'd walk into the courthouse with Margaret, Lila, and Jake, armed with evidence to dismantle their empire of deceit. The pain of losing my daughter was a wound that might never heal, but it fueled my fight. I was Edward Harrington, and I'd reclaim my legacy, no matter the cost. The Serenity Inn's cracked ceiling stared down at me like a judgmental eye, its silence amplifying the storm in my heart as I clutched the courthouse papers. Sophia's relentless betrayals, her role in the $3 million profit theft, the $25 million casino scheme, and the $30 million mental unfitness lawsuit had turned my love for her into a battlefield of grief and fury. The eviction notice served to her, and Derek was a victory. But the cost was a gaping wound where my daughter's loyalty once lived. Her tearful texts, begging for mercy, clashed with the cold evidence of her signatures and lies, leaving me torn between the father who wanted to save her and the man fighting to save his $50 million legacy. Charlotte's morning buzzed outside, but inside, I braced for the next blow. My phone shattered the quiet with a venomous voicemail from Vince, his streetwise snarl cutting like a blade. Yo, Eddie, you think you're some kind of hero with your eviction bullshit, you pathetic old bastard? We're gonna drag your name through the mud, make you a joke in this town. Sophia's telling everyone you're a greedy lunatic who kicked out his own kid. You washed up piece of shit. His laugh was a gut punch, but a text from Derek followed, dripping with malice. Your fancy courthouse won't save you, old prick. We're selling your yacht $15 million to Russo's crew tonight. Sleep tight, you broke-ass fool. The threat was a grenade, exploding my sense of safety. My yacht, a gift from Eleanor for our 20th anniversary, was now their latest plunder. Before I could process the violation, another bombshell hit. Margaret burst through the door, her face grim, holding a tablet. Ed, you need to see this, she said, pulling up a social media post from Sophia. It was a public letter, shared across Charlotte's community pages, accusing me of abandoning her in a mental breakdown and demanding $40 million in reparations for her suffering. The post had hundreds of shares, with comments from strangers calling me a heartless tycoon. My heart plummeted. Sophia, my own blood, was orchestrating a public lynching, weaponizing the city's sympathy against me. She's playing the victim card, Margaret said, her voice tight. But we've got evidence to bury it. The DA's adding defamation to the charges. The triple assault, Vince's threats, Derek's yacht theft, and Sophia's social media smear pushed me to the brink. My mind flashed to Sophia at 12, her eyes bright as she helped me host a charity gala. Now, she was rallying strangers to destroy me. Should I call her, beg her to stop? Or was she too far gone, consumed by greed and Derek's poison? The conflict was a torment, love and betrayal locked in a death grip. I wanted to scream, to collapse under the weight of her lies, but Margaret's steady gaze anchored me. We're fighting back, Ed, she said. The truth is on your side. As Margaret prepared our legal counterstrike, another shock landed. Lila Brooks called, her voice shaking. Mr. Harrington, I just got a tip from a friend at the marina. Derek and Vince are planning to frame you for arson. They're planting evidence to make it look like you torched your own lake house to claim a $20 million insurance payout. Sophia's meeting with an insurance adjuster to back their story. $20 million. My lake house, where Eleanor and I spent summers fishing, was now a prop in their twisted plot. The betrayal was a noose, tightening with every revelation. Lila's loyalty shone through, but her words were a fresh wound. "I'm so sorry, Mr. Harrington," she said. "You don't deserve this." I paced the room, my heart pounding with grief and rage. Sophia's face, once a beacon of joy, now haunted me as a traitor's mask. Should I confront her, demand the truth? Or was this arson plot proof she'd chosen Derek over me for good? The father in me clung to her memory, but the man who'd faced corporate sharks saw her for what she'd become. I called Jake Monroe, my voice raw. "Jake, check the marina's security cams. We need proof of their setup." He didn't hesitate. "On it, Ed. And heads up, I heard Russo's crew is planning to hit your downtown office next $10 million in equipment theft." The triple escalation, social media defamation, arson framing, and office theft ignited a firestorm in my chest. Charlotte's streets were turning against me, fueled by Sophia's lies, but the town's heart was starting to shift. At the diner, Mrs. Carter pulled me aside again, her eyes fierce. "Ed, I told the church group the truth how you paid for Sophia's everything. They're appalled at her lies. Pastor Evans is praying for you." Her support was a lifeline, but the pain of Sophia's public betrayal was crushing. Across the room, Carla overheard two locals whispering about Derek's drunken rants at a bar, claiming I'd stolen his future. Her face flushed with anger. "They're liars, Mr. Harrington. I told everyone you're the real victim here." As I sipped my coffee, my phone buzzed with another text from Sophia. "Dad, I'm sorry. Derek's out of control. Russo's threatening my life. Help me." Her words were a siren's call, tugging at my heart. But the arson plot, the social media post, her signatures, they screamed manipulation. Was she a terrified pawn or a cunning player? The question was a knife, twisting in my soul. I forwarded the text to Margaret, my resolve hardening. "File it as evidence," I said. "She's covering her tracks." Back at the Serenity Inn, a new conflict erupted. A knock at the door revealed Tony Russo himself, his shark-like grin chilling the room. "Eddie, you're a stubborn old bastard," he sneered, his voice pure street venom. "Think you can outrun me? Your daughter's begging me to spare her, but she's selling you out faster than you can blink. Hand over $30 million, or we're taking everything, your houses, your boats, your name." His threat was a death knell, but I held my ground. "Get out, Russo," I said, my voice steady. "The police have your number." He laughed, tossing a matchbook at my feet engraved with my lake house's address. "See you in the ashes, old man." Carla's voice called out from the hall, alerting security, her loyalty a beacon in the darkness. Russo fled, but his threat lingered like smoke. I sat down, my evidence file now a war chest, social media screenshots, marina intel, Russo's matchbook. The town was waking up to the truth, thanks to Mrs. Carter and Carla, but Sophia's betrayal was a wound that bled with every step. I saw Eleanor's face, urging me to fight, but Sophia's lies were a chain, dragging me down. Tomorrow I'd face the courthouse with Margaret, Lila, and Jake, armed with evidence to crush their lies. The pain of losing my daughter was a fire, but it forged my resolve. I was Edward Harrington, and I'd fight until my legacy was mine again. The Serenity Inn's stale air pressed against my chest as I stood at the window, Charlotte's skyline a distant reminder of the empire I'd built, now crumbling under Sophia's relentless betrayals. Her forged signatures on a $40 million tax evasion plot, her role in a $20 million arson scheme, and her public smear campaign branding me a lunatic had shattered my heart. The eviction notice served to her, and Derek was a legal triumph. But each victory came at the cost of the daughter I'd once adored. Her desperate texts, pleading for rescue from Tony Russo, clashed with the cold evidence of her complicity, leaving me torn between a father's love and a man's resolve to reclaim his $50 million legacy. Today, the battle spilled into Charlotte's public square, and I was ready to face the fire. My phone erupted with a voicemail from Vince, his voice a guttural snarl, thick with street venom. "Yo, Eddie, you think you're some big shot with your fancy lawsuits, you delusional old fuck? We're gonna make you a pariah, man. Sophia's telling the whole damn town you're a psycho who locked her out for kicks. You're done, you broke-ass has-been." His laugh was a blade, but a text from Derek followed, searing my soul. "Your empire's toast, old prick. We're auctioning your art collection $30 million to Russo's crew tonight. Say goodbye, you washed-up loser." $30 million. My art, curated with Eleanor over decades, was now their latest heist. The betrayal was a guillotine, severing my last ties to hope. Before I could process the violation, a knock at the door brought Margaret, her eyes blazing with urgency. "Ed, we've got a problem," she said, thrusting a tablet into my hands. A local news site had published a hit piece, orchestrated by Sophia and Victor Crane, claiming I'd embezzled $25 million from my own charity foundation to fund a lavish lifestyle. The article featured a photo of Sophia, tearful and angelic, captioned, "Daughter betrayed by tycoon father." My stomach churned. My own daughter turning my philanthropy into a weapon to destroy me. "We're suing for libel," Margaret said, her voice steady. "But the damage is done. Half the city believes her." The public betrayal was a wildfire, burning through my reputation, and I felt the weight of 1,000 eyes judging me. The triple assault, Vince's threats, Derek's art heist, and Sophia's news smear pushed me to the edge. My mind flashed to Sophia at 15, beaming as we unveiled a children's hospital wing funded by my foundation. Now, she was slandering that legacy for profit. Should I call her? Beg her to stop this madness? Or was she too far gone, consumed by Derek's greed and Vince's poison? The conflict was a torment, love and justice warring in my soul. I wanted to collapse, to mourn the daughter I'd lost, but Margaret's hand on my arm anchored me. "We're fighting this in court today, Ed," she said. "The truth will win." As we prepared for the courthouse, another bombshell hit. Lila Brooks burst in, her face pale, clutching a USB drive. "Mr. Harrington, I got this from a whistleblower at the auction house. Derek and Sophia are forging your signature to sell your vintage car collection $15 million to a black market dealer tied to Russo. They're planning to frame you for trafficking stolen goods. $15 million. My cars, relics of road trips with Eleanor, were now pawns in their criminal game. The betrayal was a sledgehammer, crushing my heart. Lila's eyes filled with tears. "I'm so sorry, Mr. Harrington. You're like family to me." Her loyalty was a lifeline, but it couldn't dull the pain of Sophia's treachery. I paced the room, my heart pounding with grief and rage. Sophia's face, once my greatest joy, now haunted me as a traitor's mask. Should I confront her? Demand answers? Or was this car theft plot proof she'd chosen Derek over me for good? The father in me clung to her memory, but the man who'd faced corporate sharks saw her for what she'd become. I turned to Lila. "Get that USB to Margaret. We're adding fraud and trafficking to the charges." She nodded, her resolve mirroring mine. As we headed to the courthouse, a public confrontation erupted. Outside the diner, Derek stood on the sidewalk, surrounded by a small crowd, his voice booming with street venom. "This greedy old bastard kicked out his own daughter," he roared, pointing at me as I approached. "Eddie's hoarding his millions while Sophia begs for scraps, you senile piece of shit." The crowd murmured, some nodding, swayed by his lies. Sophia stood beside him, her eyes averted, her silence a fresh betrayal. My heart screamed to defend her, to pull her from this circus, but her complicity was undeniable. I stepped forward, my voice calm but cutting. "Derek, tell them about the $15 million car theft you're planning, or the $25 million charity scam you and Sophia cooked up." The crowd gasped, faces turning to Derek, who sputtered, his face purple. "You're crazy, old man," he roared. But the doubt in the crowd's eyes was palpable. Mrs. Carter, standing nearby, spoke up, her voice clear. "Ed's been nothing but generous. I saw the bank records he paid for their whole life." Her support, echoed by Carla's nod from the diner door, shifted the tide. The town was waking up to the truth. As Derek stormed off, Sophia lingered, her eyes meeting mine for a fleeting moment. "Dad," she whispered. I didn't want this, but her words were hollow, drowned by her actions. I turned away, my heart breaking but my resolve steel. Back at the Serenity Inn, my phone buzzed with a text from Jake. "Ed, Russo's crew is planning to hack your charity's website tonight, $10 million in donations at risk." Sophia gave them the admin codes. $10 million. My charity, Eleanor's Dream, was now their final target. The betrayal was a noose, tightening with every lie. I forwarded the text to Margaret, my voice steady despite the chaos. "Add cyber theft to the charges, and get the FBI on Russo." The Serenity Inn's walls pulsed with danger, but Carla's quiet knock brought solace. "The town's talking, Mr. Harrington," she said. "They're on your side now." Her loyalty, like Lila's and Mrs. Carter's, was a beacon, but Sophia's betrayal was a wound that bled with every step. I saw Eleanor's face, urging me to fight. but Sophia's lies were a chain, dragging me down. Tomorrow, I'd face the courtroom with Margaret, Lila, and Jake, armed with evidence to crush their empire of deceit. The pain of losing my daughter was a fire, but it forged my resolve. I was Edward Harrington, and I'd fight until my legacy was mine again. The Serenity Inn's dim glow felt like a funeral parlor. As I sat at the table, my evidence file a towering testament to Sophia's unrelenting betrayals. Her role in the $25 million charity scam, the $15 million car theft plot, and the $10 million cyber theft attempt had shredded my heart. Each lie a deeper wound than the last. The public confrontation outside the diner, where Derek's venomous lies turned neighbors against me, only to be countered by the town's growing support, was a fleeting victory. Sophia's tearful pleas, claiming Russo's threats, clashed with her calculated signatures, leaving me torn between a father's desperate love and a man's iron resolve to protect his $50 million legacy. Today, in Charlotte's hallowed church, I'd face the ultimate test. Could Sophia redeem herself, or was she forever lost? My phone buzzed with a voicemail from Vince, his voice a vicious street snarl that cut like razor wire. Yo, Eddie, you think you're winning with your courthouse bullshit, you pathetic old fuck? We're gonna burn your name to the ground, man. Sophia's telling the whole damn city you're a monster who left her to die, you broke-ass wannabe king. His cackle was a gut punch, but a text from Derek followed, searing my soul. Your legacy's dust, old prick. We're selling your private jet $20 million to Russo's boys tonight. You're finished, you senile loser. $20 million. My jet, a symbol of my triumphs with Eleanor, was now their latest plunder. The betrayal was a guillotine, severing my last hopes. Before I could process the violation, a knock at the door brought Margaret, her face etched with urgency, clutching a manila envelope. Ed, this is bad, she said, revealing documents from the IRS. Sophia and Victor Crane had filed a false tax lien against my estate, claiming I owed $35 million in back taxes, backed by forged financial records. Sophia's signature is on every page, Margaret said, her voice tight. She's trying to bankrupt you to settle Russo's debts. My heart plummeted. My own daughter, orchestrating my financial ruin to save her husband's skin. The betrayal was a wildfire, consuming every memory of her childhood laughter. I saw her at 10, dancing in the garden with Eleanor. Now, she was a stranger, wielding lies to destroy me. File a fraud complaint with the IRS, I told Margaret, my voice hollow, and push the restraining order against Russo. End of The triple assault, Vince's threats, Derek's jet theft, and Sophia's tax lien pushed me to the brink. My mind churned, torn between the father who wanted to save her and the man who saw her as a traitor. But then, another bombshell hit. Lila Brooks called, her voice trembling with panic. Mr. Harrington, I got a tip from a friend at the city clerk's office. Sophia's trying to transfer your family trust $40 million into her name, claiming you're deceased. She's got a fake death certificate, Ed. $40 million. My trust, meant for Eleanor's charitable vision, was now her final heist. The betrayal was a sledgehammer, crushing my soul. Lila's loyalty shone through, but her words were a fresh wound. I'm with you, Mr. Harrington, she said. We'll stop her. I stumbled to the window, Charlotte's skyline blurring through tears I fought to suppress. Should I confront Sophia, beg her to stop? Or was this fake death certificate proof she'd buried our bond for good? The conflict was a torment, love and justice warring in my chest. I wanted to collapse, to mourn the daughter I'd lost, but Lila's words echoed, "You're stronger than this." I called Jake Monroe, my voice raw. "Jake, get the clerk's office records. We need that certificate as evidence." He didn't hesitate. "On it, Ed, and heads up. Russo's crew is planning to sabotage your construction site's $10 million in damages." The triple escalation tax lien, trust theft, and construction sabotage ignited a firestorm in my heart. But the town was shifting. At First Baptist Church, where I donated millions for community programs, Pastor Evans pulled me aside before the service. "Ed, the congregation's behind you," he said, his eyes warm. "Mrs. Carter told us how you funded Sophia's life. We're praying for you." His support, like Carla's and Lila's, was a lifeline, but the pain of Sophia's lies was crushing. As the service began, the sanctuary buzzed with anticipation. Word had spread about a family reckoning. When testimony time came, Sophia stood from the back pew, her steps faltering but deliberate. My heart stopped as she reached the podium, her eyes scanning faces she'd known her whole life. "I need to tell you the truth about my father," she said, her voice trembling but clear. For years, Edward Harrington supported me and Derek with millions, education, homes, cars, everything. When he refused to bow to Derek's demands, we gave him an ultimatum: obey or leave. He chose his dignity, and I chose wrong. The sanctuary fell silent, her words a thunderclap. I signed papers to steal his trust, his properties, his name. I lied about his mental state, his taxes, his charity. I was wrong, and I'm so sorry. Tears streamed down her face, raw and unscripted, and my heart broke anew. Was this real, or another act? The father in me wanted to rush to her, to forgive, but the man who'd faced her lies held back. She looked at me, her voice breaking. Dad, I let Derek and Russo control me. I betrayed you, but I'm done lying. The congregation murmured, some in shock, others in support. Pastor Evans stepped forward, his eyes misty. Truth is the first step to healing, he said. Sophia's shown courage today. As she returned to her seat, Derek burst through the church doors, his face twisted with rage. You traitorous bitch, he roared at Sophia, then turned to me. You think this changes anything, you old fuck? We're still taking your millions, you pathetic has-been? The crowd gasped, but Carla, standing nearby, called security, her loyalty unwavering. Sophia shrank back, her eyes wide with fear. And for the first time, I saw a glimmer of the girl I'd raised. I stepped forward, my voice steady. It's over, Derek. The town knows the truth. Outside, Sophia approached me, her hands trembling. Dad, Derek's gone. He's running from Russo. I'm filing for divorce. Her words were a lifeline, but the pain of her betrayals lingered. I want to earn your trust back, she said, her voice cracking. I nodded, my heart heavy but open. It starts with actions, Sophia. The Serenity Inn awaited, but so did the courthouse. With Margaret, Lila, Jake, and Carla by my side, I'd fight to reclaim my legacy. The pain of Sophia's betrayal was a fire, but her confession was a spark of hope. I was Edward Harrington, and I'd face tomorrow with mercy and resolve. The Serenity Inn's faded curtains fluttered in the Charlotte breeze, a quiet contrast to the storm raging in my heart as I stood on the motel's balcony, clutching Sophia's letter to the local paper, a public confession of her betrayals. From the $35 million tax lien to the $40 million trust theft. Her tearful testimony at First Baptist, exposing her complicity in Derek's schemes, had shifted the town's tide, but the wounds of her actions, each a calculated stab at my $50 million legacy, bled raw. Derek's final outburst, branding me a senile loser before fleeing Russo's wrath, echoed in my mind, but Sophia's plea for forgiveness tugged at the father who still loved her. My soul was a battlefield, torn between mercy and the hard-won knowledge that trust must be earned. Today, I'd face the final reckoning, not in a courtroom, but in the quiet of my own heart. A sharp buzz from my phone broke the morning's hush. It was a voicemail from Vince, his street-honed venom thicker than ever. Yo, Eddie. You think Sophia's little church act saves you, you pathetic old fuck? We're gonna gut your legacy, man. Your $50 million empire's going down. Russo's got your penthouse lease $20 million ready to flip to his crew. You're nothing, you broke-ass fool. His laugh was a dagger, but a text from Derek followed, searing my soul. You're dead to us, old prick. We're burning your beach house $15 million to send a message. Rot in hell, you has-been. The threats were a wildfire, but the real blow was a news alert Margaret sent. Sophia had been caught on camera meeting Russo's enforcer, handing over my private banking codes for a $10 million payout. My heart shattered. Was her confession a lie? Another act to buy time? Before I could process the betrayal, another bombshell hit. Lila Brooks burst through the door, her eyes wide with panic, clutching a flash drive. Mr. Harrington, my contact at the bank found this. Sophia tried to wire $30 million from your offshore accounts to a cartel-linked account in Mexico. She claimed it was to settle family debts. The bank stopped it, but she's still working with Russo. $30 million. My offshore savings, meant for global charities in Eleanor's name, were her latest heist. The betrayal was a guillotine, severing the last threads of hope. I saw Sophia at 16, promising to carry on Eleanor's legacy. Now, she was a stranger, trading my dreams for blood money. Add it to the evidence, I told Lila, my voice hollow. We're going to the FBI. The triple assault, Vince's threats, Derek's arson plan, and Sophia's cartel wire pushed me to the edge. My mind churned, torn between the father who wanted to save her and the man who saw her as a traitor. But then, a new shock landed. Jake Monroe called, his voice grim. Ed, I hacked into Russo's burner phone. Sophia's planning to flee to Mexico with Derek, using your stolen millions to start over. She's got a fake passport, Ed, and she's blaming you for forcing her hand. The revelation was a sledgehammer. My daughter, not just a conspirator but a fugitive, ready to abandon me and her crimes. I wanted to scream, to drive to her and beg her to stop, but Jake's loyalty steadied me. I'm sending the audio to Margaret, he said. The FBI is already tracking her. As I prepared to meet Margaret at the federal building, the town's support grew stronger. Carla met me at the diner, her eyes fierce. Mr. Harrington, the whole city's talking about Sophia's church confession, but they're also hearing about her cartel deal. Pastor Evans is holding a prayer vigil for you tonight. Her loyalty was a beacon, but the pain of Sophia's duplicity was crushing. Mrs. Carter texted, offering to testify about my generosity, her words a reminder of the community's faith in me. But a final blow came at noon. A courier delivered a package, my wedding album, defaced with spray paint. Traitor, scrawled across Eleanor's face. A note inside, in Sophia's handwriting, you forced me to do this, Dad. The desecration was a death knell. Proof her confession was a calculated ruse. I stood frozen, the album trembling in my hands. Sophia's face, once my greatest joy, now haunted me as a traitor's mask. Should I chase her to Mexico, plead for her soul? Or was this final act proof she'd chosen Derek's darkness over me? The conflict was a torment, love and justice warring in my chest. I called Margaret, my voice raw. File for federal charges, money laundering, wire fraud, everything, and track that passport. She didn't hesitate. Ed, the FBI's closing in. Russo's crew is crumbling, and Derek's been spotted at the border. That evening I walked to Lake Norman, where I'd scattered Eleanor's ashes. The water shimmered, a quiet contrast to my turmoil. I'd fought for my legacy, but the cost was my daughter. The knowledge I'd gained that love must be earned, not given blindly, was a bitter lesson. Forgiveness was possible, but trust was a currency Sophia had squandered. The lesson of her betrayal taught me that family isn't just blood. It's loyalty, a truth Carla, Lila, and Jake embodied. The education of this ordeal, harsh but enlightening, showed me the strength in standing firm. I'd donate Oakwood Estate to a veterans charity, ensuring Eleanor's legacy lived on, not through Sophia, but through those who understood sacrifice. Unlike the original tale, where reconciliation began, my story ends with Sophia's flight. She chose Derek and exile, leaving me to rebuild alone. The knowledge of her loss is a wound, but the lesson of resilience is my shield. I moved to a cabin by Lake Norman, finding peace in simple joys, coffee on the deck, fishing at dusk. The education of this betrayal taught me to value those who stand by you, like Margaret, Lila, Jake, and Carla. The lesson is clear. Dignity is worth more than millions, a truth I'll carry forever. What do you think of this story, folks? How does it resonate with your own experiences of trust and betrayal in real life? Share your thoughts in the comments on our YouTube channel, RevengeX. We want to hear the lessons from your heart. Hit that subscribe button, like, and share to catch more gripping stories every day. Your support fuels our mission to bring you tales of strength, health, and human truth. Wishing you all good health, a joyful life, and daily peace. Stay strong, stay healthy, and live well. Goodbye, and we'll see you in the next video. Health, lessons, and education carry them forward. Goodbye, and see you soon.